Hello again, metters, and welcome to my crit build for the brand new PDW90 Bullseye submachine gun. When I say this weapon is a refreshing addition to the game, I mean it. Never has using Bullseye gun felt this fun and enjoyable. From the crisp ad control that you get when handling mobs to the sheer destructive force it delivers in close and mid-range fights, the Bullseye is an absolute monster that rewards precision and aggression. This build takes full advantage of its crit potential, turning every burst into devastating damage. So sit back, relax and enjoy it as I break down the loadout, tips and playstyle that make the PDW90 Bullseye one of the most exciting weapons in the game right now. So to start things off, let's take a look at the core weapon of this build, the PDW90 Holographic Resonance, and why it's so powerful. This gun has a 20% chance to apply Bullseye on hit, and every 12 hits triggers an AoE explosion that deals 800% of your attack as weapon damage to all enemies within an 8-meter radius, with an extra 30% damage against other metahumans. On top of that, whenever you land a Bullseye AoE damage, you automatically reload 3% of your ammo per hit, up to 15% total, keeping you in the fight longer without downtime. Finally, enemies affected by the Bullseye give you a 20% crit rate bonus, which is insanely strong for a crit focused build. With traits like these, the PDW90 Holographic Resonance offers some of the best uptime and synergy you could ask for, making it a perfect foundation for shredding enemies with a high crit playstyle. Next, let's take a look at the calibrations you can run with this build. There are two I recommend, Assault Style and Heavy Style, and each comes with its own pros and cons. With Assault Style, you'll deal noticeably higher damage output, but you won't benefit as much from the reload trait, which means you'll be reloading more often and losing some uptime. On the other hand, Heavy Style takes full advantage of the ammo reload trait, letting you sustain fire much longer, although it does come at the cost of slightly lower DPS. In my personal preference, Heavy Style is the stronger option, because it prevents those awkward reload situations during extended fights, making engagements much smoother overall. That's why I run Heavy Style for the majority of my encounters. For my accessories, I'm using multi-break, compact reflex sight, tactical laser sight, weighted SMG mag and tungsten SMG AP ammo. This gives me a ground stability of 51, accuracy of 67, range of 40 and a reload speed of 16. Now let's talk about the secondary weapon we're pairing with this build, the blue-grade Sandstorm. That's right, a blue-grade weapon making its way into a meta build. The reason is simple, the Sandstorm comes with an incredibly useful trait. When you swap to it, it triggers Fortress Warfare on a 20-second cooldown, and while in this state you gain an additional 10% weapon damage. This alone makes it solid, but when you pair it with the Cradle perk Steady Hand, things get even better. With Steady Hand, whenever you have a buff like Fortress Warfare or Fast Gunner active, you gain an extra 10% weapon damage and a massive 25% weak spot damage. This synergy turns the Sandstorm from a simple shotgun into a core part of your overall DPS strategy, showing that even a blue-grade weapon can have their uses too. For the accessories, I'm running extended break, compact reflex sight, tactical laser sight and tungsten shotgun AP ammunition, for a grand total stability of 67, accuracy of 87, range of 65 and a reload speed of 45. For the melee, we are using the Kukuri knife. Defeating the target grants all weapons attack plus 30% and crit rate plus 15% for 10 seconds, which is brilliant for this build. When defeating an enemy with a heavy strike, psi intensity plus 20% and restores HP by 200% of psi intensity, which is also good because the 20% psi intensity means that our deviants will do more damage when they're in battle as well. So now that we've spoke about the guns of this build, let's take a look at some damage testings. So the raw damage test with Assault Style hits a highest DPS of 113,000 and a total damage of 456,000. With the Heavy Style, I hit a highest DPS of 97,000 and a total damage of 906,705, but maintaining a more even DPS throughout the test. So when fully buffed with the Assault Style, I hit a highest DPS of 449,000 and a total damage of 2,526,205. When fully buffed with the heavy style, I hit a highest DPS of 376,304 and a total damage of 2,695,417. Next, let's take a look at the new armor set that dropped alongside this gun, the Bloodstained Tracker Boots. These boots really shine when you're facing multiple enemies compared to earthly boots, which are more focused on raw DPS. The key trait here is that when you apply a bullseye to an enemy who's already marked, your attack increases by 20% for 5 seconds, and the bullseye mark will also spread to one other nearby enemy. This makes the Bloodstained Tracker Boots amazing for ad control and multiple target scenarios, allowing you to chain damage across groups and keep your crit uptime rolling, while earthly boots are better for single target damage. The Bloodstained Tracker Boots add a whole new layer of versatility that makes them the better choice in crowded fights. So fully buffed with the Tracker Boots, I hit a highest DPS of 401,000 and a total DPS of 2,375,746. When using heavy style and fully buffed, I hit a highest DPS of 340,000 and a total DPS of 2,797,685. I just want to take a quick moment to say a massive thank you to all my subscribers. Because of you, we've officially hit the 1,000 subscriber milestone. The amount of feedback and support I've received so far has truly been inspiring, and it motivates me to keep pushing out the best content I can. If you're watching and enjoying my guides, maybe consider subscribing so you don't miss out on any more of my Once Human builds and breakdowns, and to help me smash my next big goal of 1,500 subscribers. With that being said, let's jump straight back into the guide. So let's take a look at the food and drinks that we'll be pairing with this build. So for the food option, I've gone for mixed fried hot dog for an extra 27% damage against enemies affected by the bullseye. Remember, you want to make your food buffs with a level 5 chef and advanced gourmand to achieve these buffs. For the drinks, I've decided to go with iced tea for the extra 42% roll speed and 33% movement speed, and the Stardust Mushroom Soup for the 27% extra stamina and stamina recovery speed of 41%. With the iced tea, try to make it with the Ice Treat Brain Freeze Mimetic to gain these extra buffs. Next, let's take a look at the deviant of choice, and that would be the trusted Lone Wolf Whisper. With the new Lunar Fissional Wheel active, now is the time to farm an epic version of this, as with Lunar you gain the following appearance change traits. Grants weapon damage plus 5%, which is times by 1.5% when sanity is below 30%. And when at level 5, enemies attacked by the dog will receive 50% more weapon damage, not to mention about the absolute god tier ad control this puppy does. Here you can see my cradle traits, feel free to pause the video. So next, let's take a look at the armor sets, and for my 3-piece I'm running the Treacherous Tides. Weapon damage reduction of 10%, when HP is below 70%, weapon damage and status damage plus 12%, and the HP reduction from low sanity is decreased by 40%. Weapon and status damage plus 10%, and further increases as your sanity drops up to 28% at 30% max sanity. For my 2-piece, I'm pairing it with Lone Wolf for magazine capacity of 10% and an extra 5% to my crit rate. For my key piece, I've decided to go for Earthly Boots when hitting marked enemies, damage plus 30%. Your other option is the new Bloodstained Tracker Boots. When applying the bullseye to an enemy already marked by the bullseye, your attack increases by 20% for 5 seconds and the bullseye spreads to one other nearby enemy. So now let's take a look at mods. So for the PDW90 Holographic Resonance, I've used Vulnerability Amplifier with the Bullseye variant. Crit damage on targets with the Bullseye plus 18%, damage against elite enemies plus 4.5%, weapon damage reduction 2.4%, and the Bullseye duration plus 9%. This mod gives us the Bullseye adds an extra 8% vulnerability. For my Sandstone, I'm using Final Territory with the Fortress Warfare suffix. When Fortress Warfare ends, weapon damage plus 10%, movement speed plus 10% for 10 seconds, with the aptitude effects of While in Fortress Warfare state, weapon damage plus 6.4%, damage against normal enemies plus 4, weapon damage reduction plus 1.2, and while in Fortress Warfare state, weak spot damage plus 2.4. For my helmet mod, I've chose Faithful Strike with the lunar suffix. Cannot deal weak spot damage, but you gain crit rate plus 10% and crit damage plus 30% with the aptitude effects of damage against normal enemies plus 6%. The lower your HP, the higher your crit damage up to 30%. The lower your HP, the higher your weapon damage up to 9.6%, and max HP 4.8%. I don't really want the max HP, but it's the only mod I have at the moment. For my mask mod, I'm using Targeted Strike with the violent suffix. When hitting marked enemies, crit rate plus 10% and crit damage plus 25% with the aptitude effects of crit damage plus 15%, damage against elite enemies plus 7.5%, damage against great ones plus 2.4%, and weapon damage plus 2.4%. For my chest, I'm running Ardent Shield with the lunar suffix. While the shield is active, you gain 15% damage reduction. When the shield exceeds 1,000 single instances of damage, they will not penetrate the shield, with the aptitude effects of the lower your HP, the higher your weapon damage up to 9.6%, the lower your HP, the higher your damage reduction against deviants up to 4.8%, the lower your HP, the higher your crit damage up to 30%, and damage against great ones plus 4.8%. For my legs mod, I'm running Deadshot Violent. Each crit hit by non-melee weapons grant plus 5% crit damage up to 45%. The effects is removed upon the next reload, with the aptitude effects of crit damage plus 15%, damage against elite enemies plus 4.5%, damage against great ones plus 3.6%, and weapon damage plus 6%. For my gloves mod, I've chose Crit Boost with the violent suffix with the core effects of crit rate plus 15%, with the aptitude effects of crit damage plus 15%, weapon damage plus 3.6%, damage against normal enemies plus 10%, and weapon damage reduction plus 3.6%. And finally, for my shoes, I'm running Rush Hour Violent. Every 10% HP loss grants 4% melee, weapon, and status damage, with the aptitude effects of crit damage plus 15%, damage against great ones plus 2.4%, head damage reduction plus 6.4%, and weapon damage plus 6%. With that being said, that brings us to the end of my PDW90 Holographic Resonance Bullseye SMG build. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I want to take a massive moment to thank everyone who has subscribed and supported the channel so far. You've made it possible for this community to smash these milestones, and for that, I'm truly grateful. Until next time, matters, get out there and decimate everything.